Hi, my name is Jason. You might be watching this video because you wrote an article about recreation therapy. I'm worried that recreation therapy might not be accessible enough at locations. I'd like to get your input about making a type of systematic art into a study, which might eventually help clients stay focused on a location where therapists think it might become accessible if there is such a location. To do that in this video, I'll show how this does this and why? I'll try to cover the basics before going into detail. Later, in addition to more lights turning on, which could form light art that looks like the light art is being enlarged, their brightness and how fast it looks like those lights are moving across a costume towards a location could be used. However, for now, I keep it simpler, which might eliminate extraneous variables in a randomized study, which I'll briefly describe later. I'll also make it more artistic. It is an electronic dance costume that is supposed to automatically tell how much part of the costume is leaning and or pointing towards such a location, and without dancers having to measure or calculate anything, makes lights on the costume automatically react according to how much it leans and or points to help dancers stay focused on the location, even if they are giving up hope on it becoming accessible at that location. Dance combined with lights in this way might be a type of art that can add meaning to the accessibility problem. Others who have never heard of the location might learn about the location from a dance. I'm not the first to use the word identifiable, and the geographical location might make the problem of accessibility seem more identifiable and therefore more important. In addition to distances, leaning and or pointing can make angles, which is why I say a small movement sometimes goes far, because, as I'll try to show with the electronics, going from one angle, made from the costume, to the other angle, made from the location, can always be done by making, with the costume in a dance, a semicircle or less. To be more specific, going from one angle to the other in a semicircle or less involves going counterclockwise or clockwise. Counterclockwise or clockwise, depending on the direction the costume is leaning and or pointing, and the direction of the location. I compare giving up hope to part of the costume that leans and or points, being an arrow, the location being a bullseye, and the arrow pointing away from the bullseye. It isn't supposed to make locations around the location, where recreation therapy will hopefully become accessible, seem less important, in the same way that just because an arrow misses a bullseye doesn't mean that there is another bullseye that might draw attention away from the bullseye where the arrow that misses lands. Still, another dance can have a location that isn't a bullseye and the first dance as a bullseye. In addition to dancing to stay focused on the location in a moment, a dance could have a story about how hopeful they were about accessibility, as their hope went down and up repeatedly, beginning from when they first learned about the location where they want recreation therapy to be accessible, and ending possibly after they decide to try to get people in an audience to volunteer and or donate to make it accessible enough. I'm trying to show that more lights on the costume turn on when the costume is pointing more towards the location, which I have been comparing to a bullseye, and fewer lights are on when the costume is pointing more away from the location. It is pointing more towards it, less towards it, more towards it, less towards it, more towards it, and less towards it. Pointing away might remind them of the opposite of pointing away, which is pointing towards, which shows more hope and might make them feel more hope even if they are pointing away. There is magnetic north and geographic north. Additionally, if making recreation therapy accessible is moral, the direction towards a location where the accessibility of recreation therapy is a problem could be on a metaphorical moral compass. Until enough resources can be gathered, the dance is a way to reach, with art, towards people who can't be reached with those resources, such as the resource of transportation, which might take them permanently away from a location where there is too much inaccessibility, or away from a location where an individual doesn't feel safe for reasons that are real and are believed. If they have the resources, this type of dance wouldn't be needed. I mentioned a randomized study which could have 4 control conditions, all of which could have a dance that is hopefully simple enough to eliminate extraneous variables. Those 4 conditions are 1. A dance without any lights on, 2. A dance with all lights on, 3. A dance with lights changing, such as by doing random things, and 4. A dance with more lights on when the costume leans or points more towards a location other than the location where accessibility is a problem. 2 dependent variables could be 1. After getting paid for participating in the study, how much of the money they got paid participants donate to increase accessibility, and 2, after telling participants they haven't found anyone to organize volunteers, if telling them isn't too deceptive because organizers won't be looked for, how long participants communicate they would volunteer to increase accessibility if enough organizers are found. To eliminate extraneous variables, instead of each participant wearing the costume, programmed according to the condition they are in, all participants in the same condition could watch the same video of the costume being used. Thank you for watching. My email address, which you can copy from the description below and paste, is jason@dancingforlocations.org.